Here tonight. She's a West Palm Beach native. She received her undergraduate degree from the Juilliard School and her Master of Arts from NYU. Currently the Artistic Director of Ballet Florida Dance Company. Let's give Lauren a round.
Well, thank you guys for being here. I'm just going to take a seat because I feel like this is an intimate setting. So thank you for being here. Thank you to the Frank Gallery for having me tonight. Just going to get started. I chose tonight's presentation the title of tonight's presentation to be called The Ever-Evolving Dancer. So basically I'm just going to take you through a quick version of my journey up to this point in my career in dance. A little bit of history about my education, who I've worked with, and what I'm doing now. So I wanted to start by sharing with you this quote from Agnes de Mille, and it's a quote that has kind of stuck with me throughout my time as a dancer, and just in everyday life I like to refer to this, and it continues to inspire me. The artist never entirely knows. We guess. We may be wrong, but we take leap after leap in the dark. For me, being a dancer is all about taking risk. So this quote really stuck with me, and whenever I have those fears, those anxieties, I come back to this place of being vulnerable, and that concept also reflects in my work, my choreography, quite a bit. So I'll share with you some clips of my choreography as we go forward as well. So a little bit about myself as a student. So I began dancing at a small studio in Lake Worth, Florida. I was born in West Palm Beach and I grew up there. So I began dancing at Klein Dance under the direction of Demetrius Klein, who I'm still very close with. He has a dance company in West Palm Beach still, and it's really nice to have him still as a mentor and to just kind of see how everything came full circle, and he's really been a great support for me throughout my process as a dancer, as a director, and so on. I continued my training at the Academy of Ballet Florida, which is in West Palm Beach. And then I spent most of my summers studying abroad. So I studied, well, first at Miami City Ballet, the School of American Ballet Theater, School of American Ballet in New York City, which is New York City Ballet's training school. American Ballet Theater, and also Pacific Northwest Ballet, which is in Seattle. I attended the Dreyfus School of the Arts, and I graduated in 2007. That's a performing arts magnet school, so you have to audition. And it's a really, really great school. They have really strong academics, and I actually continued and came back as an artist in residence after I graduated the Juilliard School in 2011. I really never thought that I would attend a university or a conservatory. My trajectory was always to be in a ballet company. So when I was in high school, after attending all of those summer programs, being really focused on my classical training, it was just a given that I would be in a ballet company. For me, that's what I thought. It wasn't until I met my teacher, Dennis Wayne, who really introduced me to neoclassical work, more modern work, and he encouraged me to audition for Juilliard. I did apply for other college dance programs as well, and Juilliard kind of being a long shot, so I got in, and I spent 4 years there in their conservatory program. Then I went on to New York University Steinhardt to get my Master of Arts degree in dance education. They have a really unique program there at NYU where you can be a part of the Steinhardt school and then also receive your national training curriculum certification with the American Ballet Theater. So I was both at ABT and also at NYU. So at the end of my time there, I received my Master of Arts and also my training certification with ABT. So it was a really fantastic program. I use the curriculum so much now as a teacher, and I can't say enough good things about that program. It was really, really great. So with that being said, I am a teacher. Another kind of unexpected twist in my journey after high school, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do after Juilliard, and it sounds a little funny, but to be honest, I was a little bit burnt out. You're in a conservatory setting. It's a very, very small place. They only accept 12 boys and 12 girls each year. So by the time you're a senior, there were really only a quarter of us kind of left in my graduating class. So it's a very small school. They really treat you as a professional company dancer. So you're not being treated as a college student. The level of expectation is 100 times higher. I also was coming off of an injury my senior year, so I missed out a little bit on some auditions and just was feeling a little discouraged. So I decided to move back home after graduation. At that time, I had started teaching a little bit in school when I was still in school, just to earn extra income. And at the time, Dreyfus, my high school, was looking for a technique teacher. So they took me on as an artist in residence, and that was my first real experience as an educator. And I surprisingly really enjoyed it. I never thought that it would be a long-term track for me. I thought, okay, I'm just going to do this for a little bit, and then I'll be on to the next thing. But I really fell in love with it. And at Dreyfus, I was also able to choreograph. It was really my first experience being able to work with a high level of student. They were technically very strong. So I started dabbling in choreography and creating my own work. And I thought, okay, I really like this. What else can I do? I wasn't done with it. So I started looking into grad school programs, and NYU sounded like a good fit for me because it had that strong ballet focus. So I attended NYU, and while I was there, we have to develop our own personal teaching statement. It's basically your mission statement for yourself as an educator. Do any of you teach? Are you teachers? You're dancers? So it was something that I use still today. It was a really strong tool, and I encourage you, even as not as teachers, to whatever it is that you do, to figure out and get really clear with why you're doing it. So that was a really strong teaching point for me. I want to touch on my two most influential teachers, Risa Steinberg. She was with the Lamone Dance Company for many, many years, Graham and Lamone. So she worked under Martha Graham and Jose Lamone. She's still a teacher at Juilliard, and she teaches Lamone technique, but she also teaches a class to all the freshmen, all the incoming freshmen, called Elements of Performing. And I remember sitting in the class, all of 24 of us, wide-eyed, ready to just do anything anybody was telling us to do. And she said, and she seems very confident, like she just exudes confidence. And the first thing that she said to our class was that every time she steps into the classroom to teach, she's extremely nervous and insecure. And that just really blew my mind. Because I just thought the complete opposite. How could she be nervous? She's so powerful. Long story short, we continue to keep in touch. I actually just went to one of her trainings up in New York, and she just really has a lot. She takes her teaching so seriously, and everything down to the last detail is thought out. It really embodies her, and something that's always inspired me. And then Dennis Wayne, of course, my mentor, my teacher. I couldn't have done a lot of the things that I've done without his guidance and his knowledge of the art form. And I'll close my teacher slide with learning from your students. They're your greatest teacher. You can tell if you're doing a good job by looking at the quality of your students, and that really rings true for me, and it's a nice way to gauge how you're doing in the classroom and outside of the classroom as well. Any questions so far? I feel like I'm talking a little fast. No? Okay. Just let me know if you have one. Do you have a question?
I want to know a little bit more about the ABT, the American Ballet Theatre training that you did, what that embodies as a training program.
Okay, so the NTC, the National Training Curriculum, was developed by two men, Franco De Vita and Raymond Lukens, and they are currently, they actually just retired, but they were the principals of the JKO school, which is the feeder school to American Ballet Theatre. So they got together with Kevin McKenzie, who's the artistic director of ABT, and they kind of laid out an outline for him and said, this is our training curriculum that we think will produce principal dancers for your company. The training curriculum has elements of the French school, the Russian school, Vaganova, strict Vaganova, and the Italian school. So they basically took the best parts, or what they think are the best parts of each technique, and made them into one. So there is quite a large variation, but the progression from the pre-primary, it starts at age 3. So the pre-primary level all the way up to the pre-professional level 7 dancers. The book is this thick. But
what age is level 7?
Level 7 is like 17 teenagers ready to go on into like the studio company, or into like into the core of the company, something like that. So basically in the training, it's particular to the NYU program. It's very different than if you were to go and get an ABT certification. You could go and do it in a few weekends. But they broke it down for us into 3 segments. So we did pre-primary through level 3 as one. And we focused on it each day. We were observing the classes at JKO. We were writing course outlines. We were having discussion and lecture about the progressions of each step that's introduced in each level. So it was really a much more intricate experience than when they travel and they tour and they teach the curriculum internationally. So it's a very unique way to approach the work, and it's only at NYU. It's the only place that they do that. So while we're doing the curriculum and learning about it, our classes at NYU Steinhardt are coinciding with the level and the age groups that we're learning at ABT. So in the younger groups at ABT, the NYU classes were focusing on early childhood development, creative movement courses, and so on. So it was a nice balance and reflection to really take those courses and apply it to what you're learning in the ballet school. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, the choreographer. So I'll just start by explaining this picture quickly. This is from a work that I created 1 year ago. The title is Vessel. And this is in our home studio during one of our showings. We have a number of small in-studio showings. We show our works in progress. We invite the public in just to see what we're doing as a company, Ballet Florida. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about my evolution as a choreographer. Sticking with our theme, also an unexpected twist in my story. I never thought of myself as a choreographer. I never did a lot of choreography in school at Juilliard. It's the way that the program is designed, you are able to create work if you choose, and it can be presented in the workshops, and they have about 6 workshops a year. I think I did 1 or 2 pieces, but at the time I wasn't confident enough. It wasn't for me. I was focusing on performing. That was my main goal at that time. But like I said, it wasn't until I started teaching at Dreyfus and I was really confronted with a larger group of students, a group of dancers, that I started to get excited about it and think about how I can create work. So this piece, Vessel, was one of my first works that I felt really defined me as a choreographer. We recently presented this piece at the Atlantic Center for the Arts in New Smyrna Beach. So that was a highlight for me this past, it was two weeks ago. So that was really exciting. And this upcoming performance in March, I'm also creating a new work with a visual artist, Amber Tutwiler. We've worked together in the past, and I'm going to show you a little clip of one of our most recent works that we've done together. So working on a new piece, and very excited about that. I tend to really like collaborating, whether it be with a costume designer, a set designer, a visual artist, a filmmaker, multimedia, projection. For me, it just adds to my creation. I feel like dance can stand alone, and it's appropriate in a lot of ways and settings and for certain pieces. But in other ways, it's very interesting to bring other artistic mediums in and make it even that more rich for the viewer and for the performers as well. So this is, I'll just show you a little bit of the beginning. This is Vessel. I created this work in memory of my teacher, Dennis Wayne. He had just recently passed away, and I was inspired by how we perceive our bodies as flesh, as something that we travel throughout our lifetime in, how fragile they are, how we continue to learn and explore about our vessel as we move throughout our lives, how we can be really good to ourselves, how we can abuse ourselves, and then at the end, then we are nothing, in a sense. So it came from a darker place, but this piece really was very special to me, and the dancers as well were a huge help in the creative process. So just a little bit about the set here. The bones, those are bones that were constructed by a visual artist, Charles Bain. He's based in West Palm Beach, and he does a lot of large-scale sculptural work and installation. So we got together, and I explained a little bit about my concept, and I knew I wanted some sort of visual representation on the stage. I did have some limitations as far as size, but that ribcage is actually about 10 feet tall. So anyway, that was, I'll just let this play a little bit longer. But this is Vessel. Again, this is the same piece that we performed in New Smyrna at the Atlantic Center for the Arts. and it's definitely a strong piece in Ballet Florida's repertory currently. So the piece is about 12 minutes long, but we fast forwarded to the ending. Each dancer represented a different side of one person, or a different identity, an emotion, something that you identify with as a human. So I chose this ending to really shed light onto each individual side of ourselves. As the dancers step forward, they pick a part of their physical body to expose or be vulnerable with. Again, coming back to that theme of vulnerability, which I tend to obsess about in my work. So as the dancers come forward, it keeps getting faster and faster, mostly as a reflection of our time, our existence here in this lifetime. And that's it. So the next clip that you'll eventually see at some point is an immersive piece that was my first immersive work. I collaborated with visual artist Amber Tutwiler and the composer Kyle Krakow. He created an original score on the harmonium, which was a first for me, and it was a really unique experience. Amber and I came up with a concept that we had to fill a space and make it into something different. We called it Welcome, and we basically created a home inside a gallery space, something that the audience could walk through at their leisure, but also be guided by the performers. Everything in the space was available to be touched. Oh, this is the wrong one, sorry.
Okay. So that's,
Can we keep it up?
yeah, we can keep it up.
Okay. Everything in the space was, again, available to be touched. The glasses, the wine, the table, the chairs, the couch, the papers that were scattered about on the floor. Everything had a purpose. And did you have a question?
Where did you perform the next piece you're going to show?
We
What kind
perform-
of setting was that in?
Okay, we performed it at the Fritz Gallery, which is in West Palm Beach. Yes, that's it. You can just go ahead and play it. Thank you.
No problem.
So that's Kyle. He's the composer on the harmonium. So the guests would enter basically just to the left of those Christmas lights, and throughout each space they were confronted with a different performer. So each dancer occupied a different area of the space, representing, again, similar to Vessel in a way, different aspects of oneself. How we interact with our space, our own personal space, whether that be in our home, out in public, how we interact with objects, the attachments that we place on them, the stories behind those objects, and also how we interact with those other parts of ourselves. When one part of ourselves notices the other, how does that affect us? How does that change us? So you'll see here, this is the second room that the audience came to. I believe Nick, he's one of our company dancers. He was Vane, right?
I believe so, yes.
He was Vane. Guy's seen this piece a number of times.
It was great.
Then we have our company member Jin here. She was the third performer. The score, which you can kind of hear a little bit, also reflects the dancer, their mood, their role. So Kyle was very detailed about each part, really reflecting the tone of the dancer's movement. So again, you can kind of see some of the audience standing in the back, but immersive work is very interesting as well. It's definitely something very, very different than traditional theater.
Can you explain immersive work a bit?
So we encourage the audience throughout our own movements to interact with us, to interact with objects. Each dancer was instructed to have at least 2, we called them one-on-ones with with audience members. So whether that be a simple 5 solid moments of eye contact, whether it be one of the dancers taking them and leading them to a different part of the room, writing something on a piece of paper and giving it to them. So those one-on-one interactions, it's very interesting to see how audience members react, and every audience is really different, so it's really fun for the performer too. Also, there's a sense of, the unknown. It's when you're on a stage, it's a completely different experience. There's the fourth wall, and you're there, and the audience is there, and you don't really have to worry about what they're doing. So this was my first immersive work and collaboration. Definitely with the composer, that was my first piece. So I'm hoping to do more of these. As you can see at the end, we all come together kind of at this round table moment, and we are confronted with all of those facets of ourselves. You can see a little bit better the space there, but it was a pretty large gallery space, so. And those were all original sets as well. So that's that. And then just very quickly, I'll touch on the last one. Another collaboration that I worked with multimedia artist Jenny Coutu, and we performed it at the Norton Museum in West Palm Beach. And Jenny and I actually trained together at Ballet Florida. She kind of shifted gears and started becoming more involved in projection work, and she actually created her own software with projection mapping. She didn't map our bodies in this particular piece, but we came up with the concept inspired by one of the exhibits that was being shown at the Norton. It was called Miss Lucy's 3-Day Dollhouse Party. Basically, it was a large dollhouse with miniature-sized versions of all of this woman's collections of her art. So it was an interesting piece, and they asked us to create something to reflect that piece. So we came up with this work. Jenny created all of the visuals, and the dancers and I choreographed this ourselves. So I have done one other projection piece, and the piece that Amber and I will be doing in March will also have a projection element in it. We don't have to watch this one, just because I want to continue moving forward, but you get the idea. So moving on to being a dancer and what that means to me, my performance rituals, the act of preserving and restoring one's physical and mental state. Being a physical mover is extremely challenging, especially as we get older. And also just wearing all of these different hats, being the dancer, the choreographer, the collaborator, the director, the student, the teacher. Sometimes being a dancer, we are selfish in a way, but we also really like to give. So it's easy to overlook the self-care part of being a dancer, at least for me. The fact that I've just been open to my process and open to all of the different challenges and opportunities that have presented themselves to me, it's really shifted and changed who I am as a dancer and a performer today. I am the director of Ballet Florida. A little bit about our company and what we do. There's a picture of some of us down there. We're in our third season. We do a season at the Crava Center each spring, and we spend the rest of our time working mostly in galleries, as you saw, the Norton, the Fritz Gallery here at the Frank. We have really kind of gone in that direction, and it's opened up a lot of new opportunities that I didn't initially think the company was going to move towards. So I'm really happy with the progression of our performances, and it seems to really generate a new audience. Dance has changed a lot over the last, even the last decade. People don't want to sit in a theater anymore. That's just kind of the reality of it. It's really hard to sell tickets. People want to be in and out quick. They want an experience. They want to interact with a performer. They want an evening. They don't necessarily want to go to the ballet and see 3 acts of Swan Lake. So just going with that flow and being the director, I've chosen certain works, and even the dancers that we use in our company they're artists on their own. They give a lot towards what we're doing, and very rarely do I just set a piece on them without asking for feedback or asking them to generate their own movement or ideas. We also have a full academy at Ballet Florida. We start training our students at age 3, and we have students all the way up to high school. We also have an open adult program, and we're very active in the dance community, our educational programming. We are a non-for-profit organization, so we have outreach projects from West Palm all the way up to Fort Pierce. So we bring some of our company dancers, we present performances, we host workshops and classes, and we also bring students in to our space, and we have a number of scholarship students as well. So a few things to take away. Just really quickly, this photo here was my summer in France.
Talking about that earlier?
So I spent my summer in France working with a choreographer. He was one of the choreographers that was in residency there, Antonio Ruz. It was an amazing experience, really out of my comfort zone. I'd never traveled to Europe alone, so it was very immersive in that sense. I really grew a lot from that experience, and a huge takeaway was just being able to meet other artists that were relatively around my age and see what they're doing, who they were working with, just what their normal was. You know, it was extremely eye-opening, and being able to take class. I actually created a work while I was there. I set a trio, and it was performed in the festival that culminated the week. It was a week. So it was open to the public, and people from the villages come and they watch the dance, they observe us in class, and they saw my piece. So I was chosen to choreograph alongside 3 other choreographers. So that was a really positive experience for me. Can't wait to go back. So continue your personal education as a dancer, teacher, well-rounded artist, whatever it is that you do. I'm always taking workshops, trying to talk to other people, going up to New York to see a show that I've been wanting to see, whatever it is, just really feeding that hunger, that artistic hunger. Travel, meet people outside of your surrounding area, just like what I did. Practice self-care. To better yourself, you must put in the work outside of the studio, and it's ongoing, right, in a positive way. Challenge yourself to be uncomfortable and outside of your safe place, and that is where I believe your creative genius really thrives. And I'll finish with a quote by Martha Graham. Great dancers are not great because of their technique, they are great because of their passion, and that I feel I can really identify with. now.
What does self-care look like to you?
So even if it's just a few minutes a day of meditation, if it's taking a yoga class, I'm also registered certified yoga teacher. So yoga is also a huge part of my cross-training in a way, both physically and mentally, something that's outside of dance, but close enough to it physically that I'm still benefiting from it. That's definitely an aspect of self-care. As far as performance rituals or something that I would do before a performance, just really listening to your body, surrounding yourself with positive people, and tuning into what it is exactly that you need to be the best that you can be. And I feel like that can vary from day to day, whether that be something physical or mental or what it is that you eat for lunch. So just really listening and being present with those feelings is what I would say self-care is for me. Our class schedule, ways to support us, and please follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and take a picture.
I have a few questions.
Sure.
So, kind of coming from from like an outsider not familiar with, say, ongoings prior to a year ago in South Florida, I'm interested in how you came to be the artistic director of Ballet Florida and what the history of that company was.
Sure.
And how you came to have that role.
Yes, great question. So, like I said, I grew up at Ballet Florida. I was a student there, and I spent my time there throughout my senior year of high school. The company folded in 2009, the company and the school. The school was a huge part of the support for the company. 2009, things were happening, there wasn't enough money, and they closed their doors. People kind of scattered and opened up smaller schools, but Ballet Florida was nobody ever recreated it or was able to really rebuild it was a huge staple, in the community for the audience. They did a lot of outreach. I would say a quarter of the students were on scholarship. All of the students were in the Nutcracker every year. It was a huge undertaking and really great asset to West Palm Beach, which really, and even at the time, wasn't very big. So to have a resident dance company there that was really creating and producing quality work was unique. I was still in New York at the time, and it wasn't until I was in grad school that my dad kind of gave me the idea. He said, does anybody own the rights to Ballet Florida? What is the name? Who has the name? Does the previous artistic director, is she still involved? So we looked it up, and I ended up buying the rights to Ballet Florida. I purchased them, and I just kind of had it. I sat on it, and I thought, okay, how do I make this my own? How do I reinvent with a spin on what Ballet Florida once was, and make it better and more contemporary, more fitting to the time. So at the time I was in grad school, so I did create my thesis it was basically, I wrote the business plan and the curriculum in school. So when I came out of school, I was able to apply my 2 years of work towards the actual endeavor. And it was a process of coming out as artistic director and having these conversations too with previous donors, previous supporters, previous students and teachers. And there were mixed emotions as well. Ballet Florida held true to so many people. It touched a lot of people in large ways and in small ways. So it's really been my job to get out there and say, listen, this is a positive, this is us bringing it back in a new light. And it's been well received for the most part, so it's been exciting to hear old students come back, or old teachers, or audience members saying, "Oh, I had no idea Ballet Florida is back. That's so exciting. We can't wait to see what you have in store."
Can you elaborate a little bit more on that spin which you mentioned, you brought? Can you be more specific with more?
Sure. So Ballet Florida presented mostly classical works. They did some contemporary work, but it was mostly the Nutcracker, Sleeping Beauty, and they did, towards the end, start to bring in more contemporary artists. So the work that we present, our dancers are classically trained. They have classical backgrounds, but the work is much more neoclassical and modern. So our repertory reflects that spin. Also our venues where we produce the work. So we are in a theater space once a year, but other than that, we are in gallery spaces. We're doing site-specific work. We're doing more collaborations, which before they were not really integrating into their repertory season.
Your performance time is usually, 15-20 minutes based on what we saw, something like that?
It depends. The first work that you saw, Vessel, was about 12 minutes, but that was in an evening of work. So it was a 2-act evening, and there were shorter works. We had about 8 pieces in that performance. So it was a mixed bill. Again, appealing to the audience's short attention span these days. So they want to see a variety. So you really do have to cater with maintaining your artistic integrity, but to cater to the audience and what the people want to see.
Who creates your videos? Very, very smart to document, every one of them, because those happenings, they're very site-specific and they're specific to that time.
Yeah.
But to document them and actually have proper video production is really important.
Yeah. The videographer we used in the theater, Jordan Villanova, he does a lot of dance film, and photography. So he was great to have. He's familiar with dance and the angles and the shots, and kind of we wanted something to document the evening for the choreography purposes. So for that particular venue, it worked. For the more immersive pieces, what is his name?
I can't remember.
David Hamsick, sorry. David Hamsick and his team of videographers, they're also local West Palm Beach natives. We all went to high school together, and they're very involved in the community. And I just got together and I was like, I really like your work. Would you be able to kind of get on board with us and film? And I really like the way that he captures the essence of the work, and the angles are very unique, and I just really appreciated his style, really connected with it.
I think for a lot of the gallery spaces and museum locations that you're already working with, a lot of them would probably be interested in exhibiting the videos as works of art, works of art in their own right.
Yeah.
And it's another way that you can make your choreography and all the work that you put into it, continue to live, or to kind of function in a different way.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's probably already on your radar, but they're really beautiful pieces in their own right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's so true, because dance is, it's you can't hang it on a wall, you can't listen to it again, you see it, you experience it, and then it's gone. So it was really important for me to document, and especially now with social media and how connected everyone is, to really have collateral footage and be able to hold on to that so we can recreate it. But I haven't thought about approaching them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
short film
It's also
festivals,
preservation.
project rooms.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like interdisciplinary art festivals, that kind of thing. I mean, especially that immersive piece. That's really, it's like telling its own kind of story.
Yeah.
So, just like
Yeah, thank you. It is.
Really cool.
Well, the work
Yeah,
is
it's
already
really
being
cool.
done. Like the work
Yeah,
has.
it's
Right, it's, yeah. That was actually a shorter version of it. The piece itself, the welcome piece, the immersive piece, was about 40 minutes. So the audience was with you for that whole time. But that was just 2 minutes of it. So it would be interesting to even revisit a fuller version of it to really spend more time on each character.
Do you feel is it something specific what you can transfer to audience when you dance versus when you speak? Is there anything unique?
Well, I definitely prefer dancing than speaking because I just feel much more comfortable conveying my emotions that way. That's always rang true for me. I feel as a performer much more confident on a stage. As a person, rather, I feel much more confident on a stage. Kind of being able to have that as my identity in that moment versus just speaking and trying to explain what it is that I'm doing. So that answers your question.
Yeah.
But thank you guys again for having me. It's really been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.